6 p.m. in the Baman Enugu division of the Central Region of Cameroon. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining me on today's edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast. For presentation, I am Immaculate Fogwe. Heaps of garbage abandoned in major junctions and neighborhoods in the city of Douala have been hurriedly cleared up less than 24 hours after a chain of reports on Equinoxe TV exposing the dirty state of the city of Douala. The major waste disposal company and the local population are playing the blame game on responsibilities. That is our lone major story. Stay with us for details and more. Once more, good evening, and thank you so much for choosing Equinoxe Television. You definitely made the right choice. We begin right here in the city of Douala, where less than 24 hours after Equinoxe TV reporters exposed the various heaps of dirt found on major streets and markets across the city of Douala, workers of the Hygiene and Sanitation company immediately got to work by clearing the garbage. Our reporters made a stop at some of those places visited yesterday, and speaking to the representative of the Hygiene and Sanitation company, he gives reasons why they had to take this long for the dirt to be cleared up. Asia Lucy with details.
Heaps of dirt which were spotted in most neighborhoods here in the city of Douala as at yesterday have all been cleared. Visiting Entre Chefferie Misoke, Bepanda, Marché du Bebal, it is a different look. Most of the areas which emanated a foul smell have been cleared. Business persons say they are satisfied with the work carried out.
J'ai dit que quand c'est bon, ça plaît à n'importe qui. Parce que hier, c'était formidable.
Meeting the communication officer of the Hygiene and Sanitation company, Hisakam, he says the recent garbage found on most streets, markets, was as a result of works carried out on the major dumping ground.
Je trouvais qu'il y a des travaux sur la voie qui nous donne accès à notre décharge.
Thus, it was impossible for them to empty the garbage they had collected.
Alors, il n'était pas possible pour les camions qui devaient se débarrasser, vider le contenu des déchets collectés dans la ville, de pouvoir les faire traiter dans notre décharge.
But the company has this in consideration and solutions are underway.
Face à cette situation, l'entreprise s'est réorganisée dans le but déjà de corriger les manquements.
The Hygiene and Sanitation company calls on the population to develop a habit of cleaning their environment and also throw dirt in trash cans so that together they can fight against poor waste disposal.
And we stay with news in the city of Douala. Makeshift stalls constructed along the road at the Koto Immeuble roundabout have been demolished by the divisional officer for Douala 5 subdivision. Dr. Anwafo Kletus Asongwe says the exercise is meant to give a new facelift to the roundabout, which has been transformed into a hideout for criminals. Magican Gabriel reports.
A suspect caught in the midst of an operation at the Koto Immeuble neighborhood of Douala 5 subdivision. With him were some syringes and tramadol. Unable to explain himself, he will be picked up by security forces. At the other end, several commercial motorbikes were discovered inside grass. These are stolen commercial motorbikes that have been hidden. We had all information before descending here to seize them. All of the bikes will be taken to the council garage for onward identification before being released. Officials of the Douala 5 Council, after discovering the commercial bikes, will take time to transport them to the council garage. But at the time the exercise was going on, some of those whose bikes were taken came up with some identification documents to collect them. Unfortunately, they were denied access.
What I'm going to say, there will be no document.
They will bring their documents and we shall go towards the different stores where they bought the bikes. In each store that the sellers acknowledge they received, the bikes will be given back to the owners. Many fake documents are in circulation now.
Because we not say they make fake factory.
These discoveries were made during an operation supervised by the divisional officer of Duolo 5, Dr. Asongwe Cletus, at the Koto Immeuble neighborhood. Several makeshift stores installed in an irregular manner were also destroyed by the Douala 5 Council police. Some of these makeshift stores were allegedly used to sell hard drugs. In those boxes, they sell coffee with tramol inside, and as they heard about this operation, they moved to hide them. Unfortunately, we caught them. The destruction of these makeshift stores falls in line with the fight against urban disorder in the Douala 5 subdivision, which has led to the rise of insecurity that saw the killing of a female gendarme major at the Koto Immeuble neighborhood days back. During the exercise, some suspects were also picked up by security forces who accompanied Dr. Anuafo Cletus Asongwe to the field.
We now leave the Littoral region to the southwest region of Cameroon, where after the recent floods that killed at least 3 children with several houses destroyed in Boya, local administrators in that part of the country are being drilled on how to properly manage natural disasters and other crises. This was during a colloquium presided over by the Minister of Decentralization and Local Development, George Elanga Obam, in Boya. Anabila tells us more.
Boya, just like other towns in the southwest region of the country, has been in crisis for some time now. Not only the socio-political crisis which has been going on for over 6 years now, but also natural disasters like the recent mud flow from the mountain, which caused panic, destruction and loss of lives. All these crises, if not properly managed, can have far-reaching consequences on the local population. The mayor of the Boya Municipal Council says the colloquium on crisis management is timely.
This is quite sensitive and timely because, as you know, Boya is faced with many crises, and we as people of Northwest and Southwest who have been going through that, just like some of our brothers in other regions in Cameroon. And Boya haven't stood firmly against the crisis while integrating and recognizing the shortcomings that led to it and privileging dialogue that led to relative peace in Boya, which served as a pull factor for our brothers and sisters to move into Boya.
It is for this reason that the Minister for Decentralization and Local Development is in Boya. George Elanga Obam is discussing with local administrators on proper strategies to make use of in crisis situations.
We want to have a scientific proof that there are rules that are governing our country that are giving power to the regional and local authorities when it comes to crisis, and that when you want to have a good solution, you should start looking at it at the ground. And I think it is good for those who are here as students, for those who are acting as mayors, president of regional authorities, to hear and to listen. It is also an occasion for the university, for the social, for the civil society, to say their concerns about what is happening in short circumstances and advise, to look for solutions and to ask questions.
The National School of Local Administration has as main objective training on local development and the necessity for decentralization. The meeting on how to properly manage man-made or natural disasters was attended by Southwest Governor Bena Okala-Bilai alongside other top administrators of the region. It was under the theme Crisis Management within the Decentralization Context in Cameroon, the Challenges and Prospects of Regional and Local Authorities.
And in the report coming up next, we now take you to the Bamenda residence of the late chairman of the Social Democratic Front SDF party to meet Justice, a man who began living with a chairman after the SDF party was launched. Speaking to a Bamenda-based correspondent, he says Nijan Fruti has been consistent, reason why he too remained loyal to him and the party. Details in the following report done by Northwest correspondent Bo Stella.
Justice was a student when he first met Nijan Fruti in 1983. At that time, Nijan Fruti was operating his Mbibi bookshop in Bamenda. As a bookseller, he played a crucial role in preserving the Anglo-Saxon system of education, whose syllabus was going to be changed.
The Anglo-Saxon system of education was being undermined in 1983 when they decided to change and come out with a new syllabus. We as student activists saw that it was not Anglo-Saxon. They just lifted the French system of education to impose it on Anglophones. Being a bookseller, he played a major role to see that we as students succeeded in what we intended to do. That was stopping the new syllabus, as I've just said.
In 1990, when the Social Democratic Front Party was to be launched, Justice left his business in Nigeria to join Nijan Fruti and has since stayed around the chairman.
We did the launching together, and the option of the party was federalism, which to me was the best form of government. So I bought the idea, and I've seen that he has been consistently consistent. That is why I've been with him for 32 years.
Speaking to Equinoxe television in Bamenda, he recounts instances that made him stay closer to Nijan Fruti for 32 years, despite the threats.
Just the launching of the party itself, you had more than 2,000 well-armed military went down here. But we succeeded. If we went to the 2nd of October in Quen, where they missed killing him there, if he were not there, if after that he ran away, all of us would have gone. The day we went to Bafusam and they shot at him, if he came back and said, that is all about it, some of us too would have equally. But since he was brave enough, working for posterity is a sacrifice. And if you can sacrifice your life for that man, then we don't see anything bad in it.
Justice is one of those who toured Cameroon with Nijan Fruti 15 times between 1990 and 2023. He therefore describes the late opposition leader Nijan Fruti as the symbol of power to the people, whom he says he knew them and their realities.
Bo Stella, our Northwest correspondent, reporting there. And now out of Cameroon, Kenya's President William Ruto has asked the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund to reduce stringent measures on loans granted to African countries. Meantime, Ghana activists say taxes added on sanitary pads have made them too costly. And in Sierra Leone, election observers have called on security forces to remain apolitical ahead of the presidential election tomorrow, Saturday. A roundup of our international stories with Mala Glory.
Kenya's President William Ruto has asked the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund to reduce stringent measures on loans granted to African countries to ensure fair access of resources. He says Africa does not want anything for free, but need a new financial model where power is not in the hands of the few. Mr. Ruto's administration received $600 million from the International Monetary Fund in the autumn and winter of 2022. It also got $993 million from the World Bank in May to help the government fund the budget. Most African countries struggle with foreign debts due to ballooning inflation and increased borrowing. And over to Ghana, a group of protesters attempted to storm the Ghanaians' parliament on Thursday as they demanded the removal of taxes on sanitary pads. Security officers stopped the protesters, who were dressed in red and holding placards, and made them to gather at the entrance of the parliament. They were chanting songs and their presence disrupted parliamentary activity for a while. The group said the government should remove the 20% import tax and 12.5% value-added tax on sanitary pads, which have made them too expensive for many people. The high cost of sanitary pads, according to the campaigners, is causing absenteeism amongst girls in school and hygiene issues for the rural population.
We have a lot of girls. Mostly our school has the girls' population more than the boys. And academically, the girls perform more than the boys. So if these menstrual issues will be picking them away from the classes, is a major concern. So we need something to be done.
However, the Association of Ghana Industries has warned the government not to scrap the import taxes. It cautions that removing the taxes on imported parts will make it harder for local manufacturers to compete. The Ghana Revenue Authority says the menstrual hygiene products are classified as finished goods and so are subjected to import tax. And over to Sierra Leone, observers from the African Union and the West African Regional Bloc, ECOWAS, issued a joint statement urging political parties and their supporters to abide by the rule of law. This is after incidents of violence and intimidations broke out in some cities in the country ahead of the presidential election Saturday, June 24th. On Wednesday, supporters of the opposition party, All People's Congress, clashed with the security forces near the party headquarters in the capital, Freetown. One person was killed. The APC has called for the demonstration over what it calls conflict in electoral process. President Julius Maada is seeking re-election in the vote, which would be the fifth presidential poll since the end of the civil war in 2002. Sierra Leone has seen waves of violence in recent months. Last year, there were deadly anti-government protests over rising cost of living and economic hardship.
And now in sports, the finalists of this year's Cameroon Cup will be known this weekend after the semi-finals matches programmed for the Bipanda Omnisport Stadium in Douala takes place on Saturday. Elsewhere, Cameroon won't participate at the African Under-23 Nations Cup that starts tomorrow in Morocco. Smarty Kangable with our sports page.
The 35,000 capacity Bipanda Omnisport Stadium in Douala will be the point of convergence for fans of the Public Works Department, PWD-FC of Bamenda, Colombe of Janelobo, Fufu FC of Baham, and Stade Banjul of Bafoussam as the quest for the final ticket of the Cameroon Cup gets into action. With all matches programmed for this Saturday, it will be an opportunity for PWD of Bamenda, who were cup winners in 2021, to dream of a second trophy should they qualify to the finals. But they will have to pass through a formidable opponent, Stade Banjul of the West Region, who are the surprise package of this year's edition of the Cameroon Cup. The Abakwa Boys versus Stade Banjul encounter will be the match opener before the mouth-watering encounter between the top flight clubs, Colombe of Janelobo against Fufu FC of Baham. The future champions in the 10 regions of Cameroon already know the pool they will play in the upcoming interpolls. Draw for the tournament took place in Yaoundé this Thursday. Pool A will host champions of Far North region, East, Center, West and Southwest, while Pool B will have the champions of the North, Littoral, Northwest, South and Adamawa. The tournament to gain accession into the Elite 2 Championship will take place in Yaoundé from July 15 through the 30th, 2023. Victoria United, who are now Elite 1 club from next football season, were champions when they hosted last year. On the African continent, the race to get the 3 countries that will represent the continent at the next Olympic Games starts in Morocco this weekend with the kickoff of the African Under-23 Nations Cup. Cameroon's under-23 team that was still hoping on a last-minute decision from the Court of Arbitration for Sports dissolved their training camp on Thursday, which is an indication that Gabon will be present in Morocco. The opening match will see host nation Morocco challenging Guinea.
Let the games begin!
That's it for the first part of the news. Talking Point is up next. The planned visit of the French ambassador for gender, Jean-Marc Berton, triggered a wave of reactions on social media. Reacting to the release, Cameroon's Minister of External Relations, Le Jeune Belambela, reminds the French ambassador for gender on the stance of the government of Cameroon on the definition of gender orientation and sexual identity. And due to the pressure from the government and the population, the planned visit was cancelled. And the same thing, Cameroonians are strongly against the practice of same-sex relationships in the country. They firmly rejected the announced visit of the French ambassador for gender, Jean-Marc Berton, to Cameroon, while insisting that homosexuality is contrary to our African beliefs and goes against our cultures and traditions. Today on Talking Point, I'll be having as guest Dium Emmanuel. He is a civil society activist. Good evening to you. It is a pleasure having you on Talking Point today. So tell us, what is your analysis of the fact that a French authority decides to come to Cameroon to promote homosexuality, which is prohibited by the laws of the land?
And famous, I want to think that the sovereignty of every nation is not only limited to the political affairs of that nation. We are talking about here the cultures and the custom of the people of Cameroon, and to think that somebody leaves France, which homosexuality is very normal there, and wishes to extend it to Cameroon, which is abnormal in Cameroon, makes the whole thing very dirty.
Dium Emmanuel, as a Cameroonian and a civil society actor, tell me, how did you feel when you learned of the visit of Jean-Marc Berton, a promoter of homosexuality?
When I learned of his announced visit to Cameroon, and I learned of who he is as a promoter of homosexuality, like any other Cameroonian, I did not feel at ease. I started asking myself some questions. What is homosexuality in the first place? What is its objective? Because if we were to go by the tenets of creation, we all know man and woman comes together for the purpose of reprocreation. Now, if a man and a man is coming together, what is the objective? What are the goals? Now, another challenge that came to my mind was the health situation, the health challenges that goes with such things. We all know that at one point in life, a man needs to raise up children. But have you, in any situation, discovered a man who has given birth to a child with another man? This takes me to the Ugandan exercise when the president actually thought that he could. Anybody who is caught in the act of homosexuality should be put in one room with the partner until the day they reprocreate. If a man and a man is unable to put forth a child, then you remain there. I want to think as the issue is progressing, the Cameroon government should be thinking of adopting and adapting the Uganda style in Cameroon. We know that they exist here, but they exist illegally because, first of all, the laws of the land forbid it. Our constitution is against it. So I want to think that every Cameroonian equally shared the feeling I share, because first, as an African, it's entirely against our culture, and we will not permit that it should pass in Cameroon, whether through the back door or through the front door.
Now, let me change this question to the third question, whereby we say that some Cameroonians see it as some sort of provocation on the part of a former.
Emmanuel, want to know, what is your perception of the massive resistance of Cameroonians and Africans in general on homosexuality?
Massive resistance of Cameroonians in particular and Africans in general on homosexuality can be linked strictly to the customs and the traditions of the African man. The Africans believe that their women are for them to be enjoyed. Their women believe that their men are for them to be enjoyed. They don't think that a man and a man should be having sex, or a woman and a woman should be having sex. Of course, I want to think that if the resentment coming from the Africans against this obnoxious act, it is because the Africans still believe in the values of their customs and tradition, and it should by no means. Just ask yourself, if this very ambassador can go to India, can he go to the Asian countries where they don't even mention the word homosexuality there? Can he go to Dubai? Can he go to Kuwait and hold these conferences? Somewhere, somehow, somebody said, if he's able to go to such countries and hold such debates or conferences successfully, then from there, Cameroonians shall start thinking of how to welcome them. But I want to think sincerely that we don't need them. We don't need those doctrines. They should keep them in France. I trust Cameroonians in this domain. Even though I know there are some criminals who have been doing it, practicing in this country. It is alleged that some top government officials even carry out such practices. Yet, we say we are not aware and will not tolerate it to become an official act in this country.
What's your take on the External Relations Minister Hygiene to stop the visit of the French ambassador of gender?
I want to take this opportunity to thank the Minister of External Relations in Cameroon, Hygiene, for taking the precautionary motives, and the Minister of Territorial Administration for stopping the coming of this man to Cameroon. Because first, as an African, homosexuality is not part of our culture. We believe that a man enjoys a woman and a woman enjoys a man, not the contrary. We enjoy our women. We don't need to enjoy other men while other women enjoy other women. So if it is a normal practice in France, I want to think that that practice should end there in France and should not be extended to Cameroon. And again, I want to think that the government of Cameroon must have listened to the call of Cameroonians, to the cry of Cameroonians who do not want such a practice to be extended to Cameroon. But my fear is that as we speak now, our president is in France. I want to think that he uses his wisdom not to be intimidated in France, to make a turnaround, contrary to what our minister has already done.
Emmanuel, civil society actor, speaking on Talking Point today, and that will put a cap to today's edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe Television. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for your keen attention. Stay in the company of more interesting programs on ETV. Up next is Equinoxe.